Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you want to feel more fulfilled, motivated, and inspired, whether you're leading a household, classroom, team, small business, or Fortune 500 company, then do we have the show for you. Today we'll be talking with Simon Sinek, the undisputed king of the why, though he may never have been called that before, but he's the global best-selling author of one of the most inspiring books on leadership, success, and business out there, Start With Why. Today we'll be talking about the why, what it is, why it's so important, how to incorporate it in our lives, and who in the world is using it for success. Plus, we'll talk about inspiration versus manipulation, Ferraris versus minivans, why there's 32 flavors of toothpaste, why Sneetches have stars, and what in the world hot pants and go-go suits have to do with air travel. So welcome to the show, Simon. Are you ready to shine?
I am indeed.
Woohoo! Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Before we really dive into things, I'd like to put us in a time capsule and take us back a few years, if I could, all the way back to 2005. I guess you'd been an entrepreneur for maybe 4 years at the time. So I'm wondering if you could tell us what was going on, how things were going, and how your business was.
Yeah, sure. So my journey is very much like many other people's journeys, my entrepreneurial journey. I was young. I thought I could do it myself, and I started a small business. Mm-hmm. And the first few years are exciting. You know, there's the statistic that hangs over your head that over 90% of all small businesses fail in the first 3 years. And so the first 3 years were just that. They were a race. And by the time we reached our fourth year, we'd beaten the statistic. Mm-hmm. And I was now a member of a small club in the United States. And except that fourth year, everything changed for me. All the passion and excitement went away. And I was no longer excited to get out of bed and do the same thing every day. And the irony was things were pretty good. I made an okay living. We had fantastic clients. We did amazing work. But I didn't want to wake up and do it again. And so all of my energy went into pretending that I was happier, more successful, and more in control than I felt. Mm-hmm. And I was embarrassed to share this with anybody because superficially my life was good. So I kept it to myself. And it wasn't until a close friend came to me, worried about me, did that give me the courage to try and solve the problem that I was facing.
What exactly is the problem?
What's that?
What exactly was the problem that you're facing? Was it the success of making it through the 3-year line?
No, it's that I was uninspired. I was uninspired. My passion was gone. I prided myself on my passion, mm-hmm. and it was gone. I prided myself on my optimism, and it was gone. I prided myself on my ability to see through problems and see solutions. It was gone. I became paranoid. I became worried. I became obsessed with the numbers. It was lonely. There's nothing good about it. Mm-hmm. I spent most of my time sitting at home. I didn't even want to go out.
So then what is it that changed? When did you start to come up with this? What got you, okay, so you're feeling terrible, but you had to start digging or peeling away the layers of the onion. What was going on?
Well, like I said, the first thing that happened is a friend came to me. Mm-hmm. When you have a friend that comes to you and says, you're not alone, I got your back, that gives you tremendous courage to try and solve the problem that you're facing. Yep. Because what I've learned is that the journey of life is not hard. It's just really hard to do it alone.
Amen.
And so thank goodness there was a confluence of events that happened around the same time. Mm-hmm. And I'd met someone else whose father was a neuroscientist. And at an event, she was just telling me about the neuroscience of the human brain. And things started to click into place. I started to start reading more and started making connections. And that's when I learned that every single organization on the planet, even our lives, our careers, always function on the same 3 levels. What we do, how we do it, mm-hmm. and why we do it. Everybody knows what they do. These are the jobs we have, the services we provide, whatever it is, right? Some people know how they do what they do. These are the things that we think make us special or stand out from the crowd. Yep. But very few people can clearly articulate why they do what they do, including me. I couldn't tell you why. I could tell you what I did. I could tell you why I was better. I couldn't tell you why I did it. And so I became obsessed. I realized that I was living a life out of balance. Mm-hmm. And this is a biological constant. This has everything to do with the biology of how the brain processes information. And not until I discovered my why would I find that balance again. And so I set out on the journey to find my why.
So, and by out of balance and nature being in balance with a why, what does that mean?
So all of those 3 levels, what we do, how we do it, and why we do it, must be in balance. I don't believe the why is more important, but it is as important, and very often it gets forgotten. And the reason is simple. One, it's hard to see and it's hard to talk about. It exists in the part of the brain, the limbic brain, that controls our feelings, like love and loyalty. It also controls all of our behavior, but it doesn't control language, and it's hard to measure. And how do you measure love? Like, what's the metric of love? I don't know. What's the metric of inspiration? You don't have one. But you can easily measure income or revenues or all these other things. And so we tend to default to the thing that's easy to see and easy to measure and easy to talk about. And so I understood that all those three pieces, our inspiration and the way we bring that inspiration to life, all matter. Because being at home knowing your why but not actually doing anything is not good either.
So let's talk about, maybe we should talk about what the why is, but before we do that, you have an example that kind of illustrates this early in the book. And it's something that I've talked with our listeners about, which is if you don't know why you're doing something, then come the middle of the night, when you're struggling to keep going, you fold. And a perfect example of this is the Wright brothers versus Langley and their race to space, so to speak, their race to the air.
Yeah. It's such a fantastic story, and the history of it is so rich. The Wright brothers weren't working by themselves to discover powered man-controlled flight. At the turn of the century, it was the thing. It was like the dot-com boom. Lots of people were working on it, and lots of people were trying to figure it out. So they weren't the only ones. And we believe that the secret to success, like if you ask people, why did you fail? Why did your company fail? They usually give you the same, some combination of the same reasons, right? Ran out of money.
Yep.
Didn't have enough money. Didn't have enough venture capital, whatever. We had the wrong people. Bad market conditions. Those are usually the reasons why something fails. Which means if you have all those things, you should be guaranteed some modicum of success. Well, the Wright brothers had none of those things. But there was another guy by the name of Samuel Pierpont Langley who had all of those things. He was already world famous. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. He was given $50,000 of funding from the government, which in those days is a huge amount of money. He hired the best engineers of the day, except he had no sense of deep-seated purpose or cause. He wanted to be first, he wanted to be rich, and he wanted to be famous. That was his motivation. Well, go back to the Wright brothers. They had no funding. Nobody knew who they were. They didn't hire the best scientists. They had the volunteers from around the town and some of the guys who worked in their bicycle shop, which is how they funded it. And they didn't know anybody famous. The New York Times didn't follow them around anywhere. But they were driven by this deep-seated sense of purpose, this cause, that if we could figure this thing out, it would profoundly improve the quality of life for everyone in the world. They were driven for others.
It almost seemed that I watched a documentary of it after reading your book, they were almost maniacal about it, obsessed with it.
And what you find is the clearer the cause, the clearer the purpose, the more maniacal and obsessed we become about it. We become very stubborn about it, which is a good thing. Not stubborn to other people's ideas, not stubborn that we're right, but stubborn that we must figure this out.
No, that makes sense. And so if we fast forward the story, Langley's craft split in two.
Well, keep in mind that the Wright brothers had many, many craft that split into two.
Oh, yes.
Every time they went out to take a test flight, they would take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times the plane would break before they came in for the day. So failure wasn't the problem. It's that Langley had spectacular failures, and he didn't want to try again. When he had a big failure that was covered by all the news media, he quit. He quit. And he quit right after the Wright brothers did it. And by the way, the world only found out about the Wright brothers a few days after it happened. And that's when Langley threw in the towel. Now, he could have said, amazing, now I'm going to build upon and improve that technology. Just like Apple didn't invent the computer or the MP3 player, but they certainly popularized the graphic user interface, and they certainly popularized iTunes and the iPod.
Well, let's go there because it's perfect, because we have to understand what a why is, and what a better example than Apple then flipped everything on their heads.
Right. So a why is a purpose, cause, or belief that is bigger than any single product or service that you offer. It's literally the reason why your company was founded. It's the reason why you get out of bed in the morning. And it's the reason people raise an eyebrow and go, that's interesting, tell me more. Right? So in the case of Apple, understand where Apple came from. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak grew up in Northern California, and they were teenagers during the Vietnam War, right? They were in their early 20s during the Vietnam War. So here they were in the hotbed of anti-establishment, sort of upstart, and coincidentally living through the computer revolution. And they saw this thing called the personal computer as the most amazing tool to stand up to Big Brother, to challenge the status quo, that one person could actually compete with a corporation. Amazing, unheard of. And so this is what inspired and enamored them to pursue the personal computer, it was revolutionary. The technology was revolutionary only if you could give it to people. So Steve Jobs' obsession with simplicity wasn't a nice to have. It's because if you make it simple, more people can use it. Because if only eggheads who understand computer language can use it, then how does the average Joe stand up to Big Brother? The reason you make it beautifully designed is because something that's ugly gets put in the basement. Something that's beautiful gets put in the living room, and if it's in the living room, it'll get used more often. All of the decisions they made, all of the strategies they had, were always fixated on taking down Big Brother and allowing one person, one individual, in this Orwellian scene of 1984, it is perfectly captured for us, how one person can take down the man.
It's fascinating because doing that, I can certainly see laboring through the middle of the night when you're doing that. And additionally, it's very different than focusing on doing it for the lowest cost, to be the lowest cost leader. That wasn't, in essence, what this is about. This is about accessibility. But if you did it as the lowest cost, that's going after the what. Correct.
This is an old adage that says you can have good quality, you can have it cheap, or you can have it fast. Pick two. Right? And so if quality is number one, and you're not going to sacrifice that, then you're going to have to sacrifice price or speed. Well, you can't spend 10 years coming out with each iteration of your technology, right? So that means cost has to be the sacrifice. And in their case, that's what it was. So you can have it good and fast, but you can't have it cheap.
You talk about in your TED Talk, you talk about in the book, the way that we have things inside out. Mm-hmm. Can you explain what that means? It may mean that we need to go into the golden circle a little bit.
Sure. So when I talk about why, how, what, we know what we do, we know how we do it, but we don't know why. I simply write it. I simply draw it as concentric circles. So in the middle is why.
That'd be like your bullseye.
Your bullseye. The center level is how, and the outside level is what, right? And that's organized the same way as the brain, right? Our limbic brain is our oldest brain. It evolved first. Then we went to our Homo sapien brain, which came later on. So rational and analytical thought came last, and it's literally on the front.
If I pause you for a brief second, so the why, the center part of this cone or circle, the limbic brain, this is the part that has feelings, emotions. It doesn't have analysis on language.
Correct. So that bullseye I call the golden circle, right? And most of us think, act, and communicate from the outside in. We tell people what we do. We tell them how we're better or different, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, support, love, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But great leaders, those that truly understand their why, every single one of them, regardless of their organization, regardless of what they do, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. They start with why, right? So the example that I give in the TED Talk, the example that I often use because it's simple and it's easy to get and it's fun, is if Apple were like everyone else, a piece of communication would sound like this. We make great computers. It's what they do. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. It's how they do it. Want to buy one? It's not that inspiring, but that's normal.
Sounds like a computer company.
Great gas mileage, leather seats, buy us, Here's our law firm. We've got all the best lawyers, we went to all the best schools. We win all of our cases. Choose us. Whatever it is. I'm the best yoga instructor. I've got this many certifications, and I lived in an ashram in India for 3 years, and you should hire me, But the great leaders start from the inside out, and here's how Apple actually communicates. They start with why. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? It's totally different. It literally transforms the feeling we have towards the piece of the communication, and it starts to prove to us that it's not what you do that matters, it's why you do it. And people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do serves as the tangible proof of what you believe.
I've got a crazy idea coming to me, which is we all, if we're thinking about the customer, the end user, the listener, we always ask WIIFM, what's in it for me? What's in it for the end user? Mm-hmm. But what you're saying is almost what's in it for them at the core.
So the way I would put it is, I know what I believe, mm-hmm. and I'm going to do things and articulate things that are true and authentic to those beliefs. And if I am honest and true and do things that reflect my beliefs, then people will see what I believe. And people who believe what I believe will be attracted to me. And we will do business together, we will become friends, we will cooperate, we will trust. So the whole idea is human beings, you use the example of the Sneetches at the beginning, mm-hmm. Dr. Seuss's famous book of the Sneetches. We want to be around people who look like us and sound like us. But even more than that, even on a higher level, like if we don't have a system of values and beliefs to draw us together, unfortunately we go superficial, right? Color or language or religion, right? But if we can go above that, if we can get to the values level, mm-hmm. where now color, language, and religion are irrelevant, because now we feel like we belong because we share the same values with each other. That's why when we prefer to go take yoga classes in one place and not another. The teachers are kind of the same, but it's the people, it's the belief set, it's the culture. It's why we like one church over another. It's why we like one state or one city over another. Some people feel like they belong in Los Angeles. Some people feel like they belong in New York. Not better or worse, different. Mm-hmm. And as human beings, we desperately need to feel safe amongst our own. And so we seek out people with common values and beliefs so that we feel safe in our own communities, in our own tribes.
It makes sense. It's making me think of an example you had at the end of the book as well of Ben Coleman running a race. Because the idea of not only do we have similar values, but they are authentic. They are true to themselves and true to their message. And there's a magnetism about that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. We're drawn to people who compete against themselves. And we don't really like people who compete against us. Like, if somebody competes against us, why would we help them? You know? But if somebody competes against themselves, we want to help them because we want to help them achieve their goals. So the story of Ben Coleman, Ben's a wonderful kid. He was born with cerebral palsy. And for some reason, when he was in high school, he decided he wanted to run on the track team. Now, when you have cerebral palsy, you don't make a highly competitive track athlete, right? Your muscles are withered, your bones are stiff, and your balance is not so great. And when Ben would compete in these cross-country runs, you know, everybody would run off, and Ben would be lagging behind further and further back. And he'd slip on the grass, he'd fall over. Ben never won a race, ever, right? But something happened that was very different than everybody else. All the other athletes were competing against each other, and none of them wanted to help each other. But Ben was only competing against himself. Mm-hmm. And he would trip over, and by the time he eventually crossed the finish line, he'd be bloodied and covered in mud. But once everybody else had finished running their race, they all came back and ran with Ben. And he was the only runner that when he fell down, somebody else helped him up. And that's the point. When we compete against others, no one wants to help us. When we compete against ourselves, everyone wants to help us. And it's the people and organizations who work every week tirelessly to be better than themselves than they were the previous week that are the ones that we're inspired by. It's the ones who wake up every day to be better than us that we don't want to help them and we want nothing to do with them. We may do business with them transactionally, but we won't trust them and we don't want to be friends with them.
So how do we become more like Ben then?
Practice. As we said at the beginning of this interview, you know, the game of life is not hard. The game of life is hard to do by yourself. Mm-hmm. And success is a team sport, and we need each other. We're social animals. And so it's practice. It's like parenting. It's like riding a bicycle. It's like any skill. You have to get good at it. And the easiest way to practice it is when you know that someone believes in you, when someone has your back, when someone says, you can do this. And the only way we'll find those people is if we find people we believe in. And if we offer up ourselves and say, I believe in you, I've got your back, I will be there for you. The amazing thing about trust in human animals is we don't actually build trust by offering help. We build trust by asking for help. Because asking for help is an expression of vulnerability. It's like saying, I made a mistake. I'm not qualified. I don't know the answer. I don't know what to do. And when someone is there and says, don't worry, I will help you, that makes us feel safe. But that expression is a vulnerable expression. That's why we talk about the importance of vulnerability. Being vulnerable doesn't mean crying all the time. Being vulnerable means willing to express when you need help and asking for it.
Can we do this? We couldn't in the past. I feel I'm leading the witness here about today. Can we do this with our teams, whether that's literally a team, whether that's a family, whether that's the corporate environment that we're in? Turn to those around us, beneath us, above us, and say, I need help here.
Of course, what it requires is tremendous courage. Of course we can do it. Unfortunately, the corporate environments that we work in today are some of the weakest corporate environments we've ever worked in history. Trust and cooperation run low. They are luxuries, not standards. And we know this because look at the ease with which companies use layoffs to balance the books. Think about that for just a second. I'm going to send you home to tell your family that you can no longer provide because we missed our arbitrary projections. Like, that's insane. And forget about the people who lost their jobs. Think about the people who kept their jobs. Because every decision a company makes is a piece of communication. They have now been told by the company that an arbitrary and abstract number is more important than them and their lives. So why would they be surprised? Why is management surprised when we don't give them our blood, sweat, and tears? And why are they frustrated that there's no innovation? Because why honestly would we take a risk? Why would we stick our heads up if it's not even a meritocracy? It's not even a meritocracy. It doesn't matter how hard I work or how many years I've worked for you. If I'm on the wrong side of the P&L, the pen goes and the spreadsheet changes. So this is, it requires even more hard work for us. Because if we don't even feel safe at work, we have to do extra work to take care of each other. And it's unbelievably hard work. It's like somebody who's a child who grows up to be an adult. It's hard work to learn all those skills, to learn confidence, to learn to trust others, to learn to trust ourselves, to learn to take the risk of asking for help. They're all lessons, and they all require trial and error and practice.
So it sounds like what you're saying is for somebody, correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody is stuck in that environment where there are when these layoff happens, the people who are left around, they're survivors, and they're like, they've just escaped the wolf this time, but they don't know when the wolf's coming back. And you're saying to better yourself as a human being, whether or not you get your head chopped off or not, you got to just go for it, because that'll help you later on if you don't make it there.
And go for it, meaning help those around you.
Amen.
It's not about ambition. It's about idealism. Ambition is finite. Idealism is infinite, right? It's not about going for it and putting yourself ahead. It's about taking the risk to take care of others. Because if you take the risk to take care of others, that may mean that you're sticking your head up. Speaking truth to authority, saying you may not hurt my people, but you have to go through me first, means you're the one that could get in trouble or lose your job. The risks of leadership are real, which is why not everyone's qualified to be a leader. We call you leader not because you're at the top of the organization. That's just rank or authority. We call you leader because you're willing to go first. You literally lead first into the unknown and first towards the danger. That's what leadership is. And so if you truly want to be a leader, it means you say, I hate my job. I don't feel safe here. I don't trust management. And instead of trying to keep my head down and play it safe, my obsession is going to make sure that the people I work with, the ones whose names I know, the ones whose faces I recognize, that they love coming to work and that they feel safe here and that they enjoy every day. That's my commitment. And that's when you become a leader.
And that becomes your why, I take it.
Well, your why, that gives an opportunity for your why to manifest, yes.
So from there, it seems like if we're talking about leaders and putting your head on the line, maybe we should talk real briefly, and then we'll talk about more of these how-tos. This is amazing what you just shared. Thank you. Martin Luther King. Mm-hmm. He seems like when you're describing a leader and putting your head out there, sticking your neck out, that exemplifies him. And I'm wondering, his why wasn't, that's where we want to go. The why versus the what. Martin Luther King wasn't giving the 12-point treatise on...
Right. So I like to joke that Martin Luther King gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
And you listen to politicians today and they all have 12-point plans to solve whatever problem. We don't need a plan. We need the plan later, for sure. We need the plan eventually. But first, we need to share a common vision. If we don't share a common vision, then ain't no plan going to help, right? there were civil rights abuses in this nation long before the 1960s, long before the 1960s. What does it take all those decades before we started getting our act together? It's because finally someone put into words so clear that it us aligned our common values and our common purpose. I have a dream that one day little black children will hold hands on the playground with little white children. That's a vision of the future state that did not yet exist in terms so clear we could imagine it and put ourselves in that world. And if we wanted to live in that world, we would commit our talent and our time and our resources to help build that world. It wasn't black versus white. It was about values. 25% of that audience was white that came to the I Have a Dream speech in Washington that year, right, in 1963. So the I Have a Dream speech, it attracted, like I said, 25% of the audience was white. It was about shared values is what it was. Martin Luther King believed that there are two types of laws in the world. There are the laws made by man, and there are laws made by a higher authority.
Yep.
And not until the laws of man were consistent with the laws of the higher authority would we live in a just world. And the civil rights movement was a perfect way for him to express that deep-seated belief. And if there was no civil rights movement, he would have found a different way to express that deep-seated belief. It was the values, it was the beliefs that were his why that drew the people together. It was that, and that's what allowed it to leap beyond color. As I said before, if there is no sense of why, if there is no sense of cause and belief, we default to the things we can see because it's easier. But if we can articulate things at a values-based level, we can see past color. We can see past race. We can see past religion. We can see past language.
What does it mean? What does it mean at a values-based? Maybe we could define that for people.
Values-based are human. It's not based on one God versus another, one color versus another, one language versus another, but shared human values. So, for example, I wish that this happened. When Arabs and Israelis negotiate, they don't start at a values level. They start by giving lists of what they demand. They start at the what level. You have to do this for us, and only then will we do things for you. And the other side has their own list, right? But they never say, why did you come to the negotiating table? Well, we want peace. I get that. But why? Why? Who cares? Who cares, really? We get to be in the press. We get to win our elections by stirring fear. Like, why? Why do you really want it? Because at the end of the day, everybody wants the same thing. They want to wake up in the morning and send their kids to school to get a good education. They want to be able to have a job, and they want to be able to come home with the pride that they earned their living. And we want the kids to go to school, and we want to go to work feeling safe there and coming back. That's it. We all want the same thing. Well, if we can agree that that's sort of a human value, that we all want those same things, now the question is, how do we help each other get that? Now the negotiations can start. That's what values mean, which we find alignment on a level higher than our grievances. We find a level higher than where we're from or what we do or what we look like. We find a level on a human level, we find value.
This sounds like something we can use in all aspects, in all communications.
It's human, of course.
So going from there, you really inspired me after I read your book, because we share similar goals, which is inspiring others and inspiring the world by inspiring each individual. And I was reading your book and reading about your why and looking at my why, and it got me thinking, and it got me digging, and it got me writing and trying to understand my why even better. And it begets the question, do you have a methodology you can share with people on how we bring out our own whys?
Sure, absolutely. There's multiple ways, and it depends on your own, what you like. We actually, my amazing team, when I used to do the why consulting, the why discovery as a consultant, and I would actually sit down and help people find their why. My amazing team took my whole process that we'd figured out over years, and they put it online. I'm so proud of what they've done. I'm so proud of the course that we have. So for those who are interested in that kind of thing, we have something called the Why Discovery course on our website, startwithwhy.com, and we recommend you do it with a friend, and it's really wonderful and inspiring. But I can tell you a fun way to do it as well.
Perfect.
That'll get you in the ballpark. Go to your close friends, the people who you love and they love you. Not spouses and not brothers and sisters. The relationship's too close. But close friends, the ones that you could call at 3 o'clock in the morning and they would definitely pick up. And if they called you at 3 o'clock in the morning, it would be fine. And ask them this simple question: why are we friends? And they're going to look at you like you're crazy. Because what you're doing is asking them to put into words a feeling. Friendship is a feeling. You're asking them to communicate something that exists in the limbic brain, which doesn't control language. And so they're going to start by saying, I don't know. Why are you asking me this? And you just say, I heard this crazy guy talking, just humor me. And then you stop asking why, ironically, because the word why is an emotional question and we now need to get them to articulate something. So we say, what is it about me that we're so close friends? What is it about me that I know that you'll be there forever? What is it about me that you want to be there for me? And they'll struggle and say, I don't know. Why are you asking me this? And you have to play devil's advocate, and you can't help them, and you can't let anybody else help them. They got to suffer, right? And they'll start describing you. I don't know. You're funny. You're loyal. I can trust you. And you say, great. That's the definition of a friend. What is it about me that I know that you'd be there forever? And again, they'll keep describing you. I don't know. And you play devil's advocate, and eventually they'll give up. They'll give up. And they'll start describing themselves. And this is what my friends said to me. They said, Simon, I don't know. All I know is I can be in the same room as you, and I feel inspired. And I got goosebumps. In other words, your friends will say something, and you will have the emotional response, whether you get goosebumps or you well up. Because basically what they've done is they've articulated the value you have in their lives, which is your why. And that's the thing you have to give to as many people as possible and find ways to bring to life. And if you do this with multiple close friends, you may get the exact same words, but at the very minimum, you'll get the same idea from everybody because this is who you are. And this is the value you fill in all of their lives. And so to be authentic means to say and do the things that reflect who you actually are. That's what authenticity is. So try it. It's an amazing process. It's really inspiring. It gets you in the ballpark. And for those who want more specificity, like I said, I'm so proud of what the team put together at startwithwhy.com.
Beautiful. So you get that information, you get more about your why, and then is it a matter of cultivating your why? Where do you go, okay, I now know my why, which is actually, I'm saying that kind of facetiously, that's huge. I can't be overstated.
Well, it's the foundation of a house, right?
Yeah.
It's a tool. That's all it is. It's just a tool. You can do big things with it. You can make small things with it, but you got to use the tool, right? It's a starting point. It's like commencement for university. You haven't completed anything. You're just beginning, right? So once you know your why, now the question is, how do you use it? And you have to use it as a filter. It's a filter for decision making. It's a filter for the relationships you maintain, personal or professional. One of the things that happened to me when I discovered my why, I realized I had these friends in my life that really didn't add anything to my life. I spent time with them, but I wouldn't say that I was growing, and I definitely wouldn't say that they would support me and be there for me in hard times. In fact, if I put in no energy to seeing them, I don't think I'd ever see them. I don't even think they ever called or emailed. They just responded to my calls and emails. And so I was like, that's interesting. I would rather be around people who actually care about me. And so I just stopped calling. And guess what? I never heard from them ever again. So it makes you it gives you confidence to sort of filter out those relationships. Here's the best example I can give of how the why works.
Yeah.
It's a simple metaphor that I call the celery test.
Beautiful.
We're constantly being given advice of what we should do, how we should live our lives, how we should build our businesses, the kinds of jobs we should seek, what companies we should work for. Everybody's full of good advice, right? So it's like going to a dinner party and somebody says to you, you know what you need to do? You need to buy M&Ms. I use M&Ms and I can't tell you the joy that they bring me. And somebody else says to you, in this economy, are you crazy? Rice milk. You got to use rice milk. And somebody else says to you, Oreo cookies. It's all about Oreo cookies. I've done so well and found so much happiness with Oreo cookies. And somebody else says to you, absolutely not. It's all about celery. And you take all this perfectly good advice from perfectly good people with perfectly good case studies, and you go to the supermarket. And the question is, which products do you buy? You buy celery and rice milk and Oreos and M&Ms. You buy everything. You spend a lot of time at the supermarket. You spend a lot of money at the supermarket. And you may or may not get value out of some or all of these products. We don't know. Mm-hmm. And the worst part is when you're standing in line to pay with all of these products in your arms, celery and rice milk and Oreos and M&Ms, everybody walking past, no one knows what you believe because you bought everything. They're looking at what you bought and they have no idea who you are and what you stand for. So they just ignore you and walk past you. Now let's imagine we know our why. Let's imagine that our why is to always be healthy and do things that keep our bodies healthy. Mm-hmm. You get all the same great advice from all the same great, well-intended people. This time, when you go to the supermarket, you only buy
the celery.
You only buy the celery and the rice milk because those are the only products that make sense. Mm-hmm. You spend less time at the supermarket. You spend less money at the supermarket. You're guaranteed to get value from all of those products. And when you're standing in line at the supermarket holding only celery and holding only rice milk in your arms, everyone can see what you believe. Everyone knows that you are a healthy person because they can see it in the decisions you've made. And someone will walk past you and go, hey, you're healthy? Me too. You just attracted someone based on their values and their beliefs simply because of the better decisions that you made. And here's the best part. Before I even said what products I was going to buy, simply by articulating the why, you knew what I was going to do. And it's that level of predictability that you can now make decisions for me or with me, and that we will agree upon these decisions simply because I've been practicing using this as a filter to make all decisions. Now, of course, I understand reality. I understand that nothing goes perfectly, and I understand that sometimes we give into temptation or expediency. I get that. And if you want to have a piece of chocolate cake, have a piece of chocolate cake. But understand that you're going to put your system out of balance. You're going to have to work extra hard to get it out, and you can do it now and then. Because if you do it too often, then no one will know what you stand for anymore. So doing something for expediency or whatever reason in the short term, every now and then, it's fine. That's reality. You just can't do it too much. You just can't ignore your why too frequently.
That's a beautiful example from I'm thinking, today is the first morning in the last few weeks I've been out of celery for my juice in the morning.
There you go.
It shows which camp I'm in. Darn it, I love those M&Ms. From there, I have 3 examples I mentioned at the beginning. We don't have to go over each of them. This is really empowering stuff. So maybe one of these 3 examples,
sure.
You can either Ferraris and minivans, 32 flavors toothpaste, or what in the world hot pants and go-go boots have to do with air travel?
Let's do 32 types of toothpaste.
Excellent. And they'll all do great things for me, right?
Great things for you. So there's only 2 ways to influence human behavior. You can manipulate people or you can inspire people, right? We're all familiar with manipulations, which is dropping your price, get someone to buy, right? It works perfectly fine. Doesn't create loyalty, right? So
I was blown away in your book by all the different types. Rebates are manipulation, dropping the price is manipulation, limited time to buy is manipulated. All of these things that don't build loyalty.
Fear is a manipulator. Even aspirational messages, right? We all join the gym with for aspirational reasons, but the only people who stay going to the gym are the ones who are inspired to go. You know, even that. So even it doesn't have to always be negative; it can sometimes be positive. But yeah, there's more manipulations out there than not. And so what ended up happening when a company doesn't know their why, they panic and they react to everything, and they think by throwing more spaghetti against the wall, something will stick. So what happens is, Colgate is making toothpaste, and they see sales go down, right? So what do? Instead of changing the way they market it or trying to appeal to someone's values, they add a new product. This one has fluoride, and that works fine, but guess what all the competition does? They match it. Now they all have fluoride. So sales go down again. This is called novelty. So what do? They add something else. This one's got green stripes. I don't know, right? And now everybody has green stripes. And so the novelty is worn off. And so you add something else. And you use novelty to sell. Everything new. It's all novelty. And at some point, Colgate had 32 types of toothpaste on offer. I don't know how there's a difference between 32 types of toothpaste. It gets better than that. They had a tool on their website to help you decide which toothpaste was right for you. Seriously? Seriously. You need an online tool to find toothpaste. This is madness, right? So the problem is when we rely on novelty to sell things, which is features and benefits, keep adding little widgets. What ends up happening is we spend so much money, we create such confusion in the marketplace, we end up making it more difficult for ourselves to compete because everybody matches the program. And then we have so many things on the market, we can't compete. It's madness. If you look at all the great companies in the world, they have very few choices. Apple has far fewer choices than all their competitors. Southwest Airlines has far fewer choices than all their competitors. WD-40, a great company, has far fewer choices than all their companies, right? It's basically a one-product company. If you look at all the best companies, the number of selections they offer are limited. They know what they stand for. They know what they believe. They work very, very hard to make their products better than their products were the previous year or the previous season, and they let their competition go do what they want. Because the competition is doing enough to destroy their own businesses, they don't have to partake.
You mentioned Harley Davidson in your book many times over as a company that isn't doing the manipulation side of things. In fact, if you want it, we're going to give it to you 6 months or a year down the road, but we're going to get brand loyalty by being who we are and knowing what we represent.
Right.
We don't have to go there. In fact, it's just about the time to wrap things up. But you make me just a bugaboo that I want to share that you've probably seen as well. Internet marketing. I understand the concept of giving something away, giving something extra, giving an extra program, but it seems like everybody on the internet these days is one-upping themselves in that manipulation game. We'll give you 300 in bonuses. We'll give you 500. We'll give you 1,000. We'll give you 3,000. I'm waiting to see when they come to the house to, I don't know what.
Yeah. It's because they're relying on novelty and manipulations to sell their wares as opposed to values and beliefs. Do you know what we offer on our website for stuff?
Mm-mm.
Nothing. We don't offer you anything, and we don't ask for any emails either. We don't trick you that we'll give you free content only if you give us your email. If we have free content to give you, you can have it for free. That's the point of free content. It's not a transaction. I'm not going to trick you into getting free stuff if you give me something so I can add you to my mailing list. If I'm offering you something for free, you can have it. And so we take great pride in the fact that we are very clear about what we believe. We're very clear about what we stand for. And the only people we want to do business with is people who believe what we believe. Those are that's what we want, right? Because those people are loyal. The only reason that my work and my messages and my ideas and my books and talks have spread is because other people, other wonderful, amazing people who believe what I believe, shared it with their friends. That's the only reason. So why would I ever violate that trust? I'm so grateful. We're really strict about, we don't do like mass mailings or something. Like other people have opt out, we have opt in. Like if you want to know, you have to ask for it, because I would never send anybody else something that they didn't ask for, because I think it's awful.
I love it. And then when you are sending something, you're operating, I would assume, under the question, what can I do to help somebody today?
Always. Only. We don't send out something unless we can offer some value. Always.
Fantastic. So a wrap-up question just before we end here. We like to ask all of our guests, which is, what brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
I'm pretty simple, if I'm honest. I love the company of my friends. Sometimes when I go on business trips, I'll invite a friend to go with me. Come and have a great experience. And,
cool.
It's kind of fun. I'm really simple. I'm kind of an introvert and a homebody. And it doesn't mean I want to be alone. It means I want to be with one or two people that I love. And that's where my joy comes from. And I absolutely love my friends more than anything.
Fantastic. Where can people go to find out more and to find your book?
All the usual suspects. We're startwithwhy.com is our home on the web. Got a blog there. Got Twitter at Simon Sinek. Got the Instagram. Got the LinkedIn. Got the Facebook. All the usual suspects.
Fantastic. And I recommend everybody to get the book. We couldn't do justice. The amount of stories, examples, you become inspired. You you get your own pen and you start learning about yourself from reading this book. So any last words of wisdom you want to share with people?
Take care of each other. I think it's ironic in this world of self-help. We have an entire section in the bookshop called self-help, but we don't have any section of the bookshop called help others. And at the end of the day, the way we truly help ourselves is by helping each other. And I wish we would preach that more, because we only have each other. That's all we got. And if we don't take care of each other, no one will take care of us. So hold doors open for people. Say please and thank you. If someone's a little grumpy, maybe be a little empathetic. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they had a fight with their spouse before they left work this morning. Ask people how they are and actually care about the answer. It's the little things that we do in life that make the lives of others better, and not accidentally makes us feel better about ourselves too.
Woohoo! Thank you so much, Simon. That was fantastic, and words I think we need to hear. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. For everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, start with why, and ask how you can help others. And shine bright. Woohoo! Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!